Hi, I'm Chris Favre. I'm the Web Content Manager for CFE Media and Technology, and today I'll be discussing digital transformation and how to build a successful project with a thought leader from Emerson. Digital transformation, along with many other concepts and methodologies that have come forward in the last several years, are all generally coming from the same place, which is trying to improve upon what people are already doing by bringing people and processes together through technology. Digital transformation offers a lot of potential for manufacturers, but it can be a daunting process at the outset. Today, we'll learn and discuss how to make it less so. Today's speaker, Amit Patel, is a global director of digital transformation for Emerson and has worked with them since 2017. Amit also authored a piece on digital transformation for plant engineering in 2022, and he spoke with us at Hanover Mesa in 2023. And both pieces will be linked for reference below. Thank you for joining me today, Amit.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chris, for having me.
Yeah. So, when it comes to digital transformation and starting a project, in your experience, what are the biggest challenges companies and users face? Is it knowing where to start, or is it just a lack of knowledge of what digital transformation constitutes?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And I think first and foremost, it's of course a mix of both. It's right, the lack of knowledge and where to start. But I also think there's several other barriers that a lot of manufacturers and end users face among having the right governance. Is there honestly a right culture within the organization that's set? And I think before we sort of dive into more details, I think it's also helpful to sort of understand what digital transformation is. And it's important so we can even tackle some of the other questions better. I think, when it comes to digital transformation, it's really a goal of creating value through deploying digital tools and technologies at scale, right? That help you get to a data-driven decision-making uh, process, and with data-driven decisions, what can you essentially get out of it, right? Uh, you can understand what happened yesterday, historical data there, what's happening now, real time, what will happen tomorrow, so predictive, and then of course, what should I do next? That's prescriptive. And therefore, I think, beyond the lack of knowledge and knowing where to start and having the right governance and culture, there's a few major steps I think that when you start a project, end users and manufacturers need to think about. It's again focusing on a set of guiding principles, right? Having that governance in place. What are the high impact use cases? Having the right people and talent. Do you have the right skill sets? If not, what's it going to take to capture those, to train your folks? When it comes to infrastructure, what set of standards are being set with what's happening at the factory floor and how you're connecting to the information technology layer? And then, of course, technology is sort of the backbone, right? What types of technology are you willing to standardize on, platforms you're willing to invest in that allow you to really unlock that trapped data and provide or contextualize, excuse me, that data into information at the speed and scale that you need it to. So, in short, yes, it's a mixture of lack of knowledge and where to start, but I think there's a lot of other elements to this, and there's a key word in digital transformation. Transformation. It's an ongoing journey. There isn't an endpoint, and it's a
Right.
continuous process that end users and manufacturers, of course, have to take.
Yeah, it sounds like, before you even begin, you really need to take like an honest assessment of who you are, and where you think you're going, and what ultimately your endpoint might be in the short and the long term, it sounds like, before you can really kind of get into the nitty-gritty of this, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. But once you kind of get started,
Mhm.
what are some areas where companies can focus on for the digital transformation project where they could get a quick ROI to kind of, I guess, validate that proof of concept to the stakeholders and to the other people involved? What's a good first step in that regard?
Yeah, absolutely. I think fundamentally it's the ones that you can measure and create a financial or productivity improvement out of, right? And there's a few areas that companies are focusing on today, Chris,
Hmm.
really around improving energy efficiency, reducing waste, increasing automation, right? Improving productivity and quality, and reducing maintenance and intensity spend around that. So those are the major ones that, in my experience, and especially at Emerson, areas we're focused on helping our customers solve those challenges. And I think having the right focus and the use case is critical. But also it's important to have a mindset of failing fast and learning faster, because oftentimes there is a balance that you need in terms of the amount of projects you want to start with or the number of use cases, because oftentimes all of them won't work. And you need to pick the ones that essentially are providing you the greatest magnitude of savings or the ROI, because with that, you can really begin to either invest or accelerate your digital transformation process, starting with like I said, a large number of use cases to essentially help you understand where the greatest ROIs are is key as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you have those first couple of benchmarks or results, it's easy to get the get everyone to buy in a little bit and see, and because now you actually have something where you can you say this is how it should work, and this is what we could benefit, where we could benefit from, and as you scale up during that process in digital transformation. What is the single most important step companies need to take to help ensure success during this journey of digital transformation?
Yeah, I sort of go back to my earlier comment around governance, right? And
Hmm.
kind of diving a little bit more into that is there a pragmatic plan in place, right? I think nobody really wants to take on a project, spend the time, money, and resources and focus on one asset or one machine, right? It's how can you quickly move and prove that and capture all of that value at scale, whether it's across your entire facility or multiple facilities. But you don't get that, overnight. And there is a pragmatic plan that end users or anybody who's adopting a digital transformation initiative needs to consider. It requires really a clear, phased rollout approach, whether you start at a single machine, expand that to the production line, and then from the production line, move that across an area in your facility and such and so forth. I think there's also an emphasis that needs to be looked at or at least focused on would be the infrastructure. How is your factory floor connected to the folks that own the data, the information technology side of it, right? How are these connections being made? What protocols or communication architectures are you standardizing? Do you have the right stakeholders? The folks at the factory floor, the folks at the IT side communicating with each other. And
Yeah.
once you do that, I think coming together and understanding what technology you'll leverage. For example, edge technology, right, is a great technology platform that's used to deliver IIoT, to deliver data locally, to help scale. It really allows you to collect, analyze, and push that information where you need it to, providing end users or manufacturers with the flexibility to take on multiple use cases and prove them out. And then sort of the last thing is really what people and skill sets do you need to drive this? I know you asked for a single most important, and I think again it starts with having a pragmatic plan, but I think it's also important to understand that without people, infrastructure, and technology, things can fall flat, and you will end up stalling your process or your transformation.
Yeah, I like the idea of it being a pragmatic approach. I mean, obviously, you want this to be enormously successful. You want this to, solve all your problems. But as you say, it's not going to happen in a day. And, from other discussions I've had, it's a long process. It is a journey in that digital transformation. If you're going for this, you're in it for the long haul.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But in that spirit, do you have an example of a successful digital transformation project where it started small,
Mm.
with just a couple of modest goals, but it ended up evolving to something that became a real success.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one example that comes to mind is let's take a look at energy monitoring, right? Um, which is really under the umbrella around reducing waste and optimizing your process. Sort of doing more with less. And it's a key lever that or area of focus that manufacturers are using today to prove ROI, to prove their digital transformation process. So if you take energy monitoring, for example, why do you want to monitor energy in the first place, right? It's because perhaps you want to unlock trapped data to set benchmarks. You want to understand what normal is for your machine, right? Perhaps there is a initiative to look at absorption costing, where you want to understand the total resource input for a widget or a product that's produced. Perhaps there is more efficient maintenance or auditing practices you want to create, where you want to understand what machines are the heaviest consumers of your resources that you want to optimize. Perhaps there's opportunities to uh, capture some incentives through government or regulatory agencies. So if you take the energy monitoring example, oftentimes I find that to be probably out of a lot of the ones that I've seen being tackled, a lower barrier of entry, because you can address this by looking at a specific machine or a part of that machine. And perhaps you take a look at the utilities that machine consumes, like water, air, gas, electricity, or steam, right? And for example, if you look at air, that is a pretty low-hanging fruit opportunity, because with compressed air, it generates about 30% of your total energy consumption or your monthly bill. And about 15 to 30% of that actually goes to waste due to inefficiencies, or idle time or standby of equipment. So that's a really, I would say, low barrier or low hanging fruit use case that you'd want to tackle. And how would you start that? So you look at the dimension of air, like I said, compressed air, perhaps you start with that. And you can start by unlocking that trapped data. So whether you're looking at an airflow sensor, or a different form of instrument to measure that, making sure that you are understanding what form of communication or architecture network you want to use, like IO-Link or OPC-UA or MQTT. And that's really important because it goes back to my earlier comment around how are you going to have your process or your governance around OT connecting with IT.
Mhm.
Standardizing, like I said, on a set of protocols or communication networks is going to be key here. And once you unlock that trap data, right? I had mentioned edge technology, for example. That's a common use case that many end users and manufacturers are using today to quickly collect that data, analyze it locally, and then push that either to a third-party software or something that they have internally that they've created. Um,
Mhm.
and that really gets the ball rolling on proving it out, for example, one dimension, air. And now that you have perhaps the higher layers more standardized or structured, you can begin to add on additional sensors, right? You don't want to, again, just capture value by reducing just compressed air. You want to scale that. And the initial goal here is to get a holistic view of your energy inputs for a given machine, perhaps under a specific cycle or a specific production time. And that's a really easy way to get to the monitoring piece. I think what's
Yeah.
really interesting and what I see happening today is really customers kind of taking the next step.
Mhm.
you know, Once you've aggregated this information, whether it's water, air, gas, electricity, steam, for example, or one of those dimensions, is how do you begin to deliver the analytics? And this is where a lot of end users are perhaps looking at to take this data, to understand what normal is, to begin to either prescribe or predict how the machine or process will behave in the future. And this is
Right.
where you can use an example of like starting small with monitoring,
Mhm.
where perhaps those use cases around I want to create benchmarks. I want to reduce, of course, energy costs. I want to do a more efficient maintenance practice. Allows you to sort of take the next step to getting around analytics to really create scale and velocity around
Yeah.
savings.
Yeah. And building a replicable process where, it
Absolutely.
goes from step to step to step to step, it's easily repeatable regardless of what it is. It sounds like that's also, the underlying theme there. It's like, if you have a process that you can replicate not only regardless of whatever the system is, you're going to be on the way to great success.
Yep.
And, digital transformation is, just part of a much larger puzzle as manufacturers are trying to get better, through automation or, improving their methodologies or whatever. And we touched on edge technology a few times, but what other concepts or goals, sustainability or the IIoT or anything else you can think of? How can they help with the digital transformation process, and how interconnected is all of this as we go on this manufacturing journey?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So yeah, the puzzle that we're trying to solve is sort of fundamentally how can I do more with less? And digital transformation happens to be and has been really the value creation imperative for quite some time. And I would say it's an interconnected process, right? But there are a lot of mechanisms and levers that customers and suppliers out there are utilizing to make that a reality, right? And I think in today's world, I think some of the most important things I see, of course, knowing that technology and processes are constantly evolving, is um, governance around how to apply artificial intelligence and machine learning, data science is going to be critical, especially, like I said, in today's day and age. Conversely, what reskilling and training do you need to have for your staff, especially in this new world, where AI and machine learning is really creating a much larger magnitude of value and ROI
Hmm.
than perhaps condition-based solutions. Um, Setting up a culture where, like I said earlier, you can fail fast and learn faster. And then also making sure that you're investing in your infrastructure, right? I mean, it's not like manufacturing sites in the physical form were built yesterday.
Hmm.
They age, and some of them are decades old. And making sure that you're investing in whether it's an IT platform or on the factory floor, um, at the highest levels of the organization is going to be critical to adopt and consume these new technologies and to unlock all these new business models that are being generated from this. So I think those are going to be critical, you know, and and that's essentially our vision here at Emerson as well, is thinking about those things for our manufacturers and for our end users. Whether you're just starting your digital transformation journey or you are far down it. I think, it's important that what we have, especially here at Emerson, is taking, let's say, a Florida cloud approach, where it's really baked in pragmatism, sort of to the points that I had mentioned earlier. It's by combining decades of application expertise, a large technology portfolio from devices, hardware like controls and edge, and software, and combining that together based off of what existing architecture or the configuration the customer needs it in, and applying it on that use case. And that's essentially, I think, some of the most critical elements is making sure that you're investing in the right places, especially around people, technology, and infrastructure, and working with the right suppliers, of course, out there in the industry to help you achieve that.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be an interesting journey the next several years, particularly with the rise of AI ML and how that might impact the digital transformation process and the manufacturing processes in general. That has certainly come on strong in the last year, and we've already seen some major changes already. But I'm interested to see what the next couple of years will bring. What do you think? What are you thinking from your side with AI ML in particular?
Yeah, I would say it's here to stay. You're already seeing it move incredibly fast compared to other technologies. I think, manufacturers will have to have a plan in place as to how to apply this, how to govern it, because it's not really going anywhere. The values and the improvements, especially around productivity, that some end users and manufacturers are seeing is quite incredible.
Yeah,
And making sure that, as a as an organization who is either applying or considering the use of AI and machine learning, is understanding how it's going to play with your people, how it's going to be adopted in your existing, or perhaps what you need to invest in your infrastructure, is going to be really critical
yeah,
with this tool, right?
yeah. No, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what
Yeah,
will come out of all of this, I think, for sure. So, well, thank you, Amit, for joining me today. I appreciate
absolutely,
your
Chris.
insights on this. So thanks very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Control Eng TV, where you can find other expert interviews with thought leaders in the Expert Interview Series channel. And I'm Chris Favre, Web Content Manager for CFE Media and Technology. Thank you for watching.